How tough is it to turn your brain off when you think about Bijan Robinson?
He's. I can't wait to coach him, and I've had a lot of conversations with him. He was in the building, and we talked not about football. Don't worry, didn't break any rules. But this guy's wired the right way. I mean, man, he is all ball all the time. Forget how physically gifted he is, which we all know and we all see.
Right.
But
time on task, and I feel like I'm still learning. Like, you see a lot of guys. I feel like people see a lot of guys in my class and seeing how well they're doing, and they look at it as like, oh, I'm not doing that well, and all these other guys are doing well, but we in totally different situations. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't look at it like that. I look at it as just I'm still.
Michael Penix Jr. just exposed something Kevin Stefanski thought would stay secret. It could change Shedeur Sanders' career forever. Let's get into every single layer of this right now, because nothing about this story is simple and everything about it matters. So, don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. Something just happened in the NFL that you almost never see. And if you've been watching this league long enough, you know exactly how rare this moment really is. An active quarterback, a young one, still building his own career, just stepped forward and demanded that the NFL investigate a sitting head coach. Not hinted at it, not danced around it, not dropped some vague tweet that fans had to decode. He said it straight. Michael Penix Jr. put his name on it. And the moment he did that, the entire conversation around Shedeur Sanders changed. Because this isn't how the NFL normally works. The league runs on hierarchy. Coaches hold power, front offices hold power, owners hold power, and players, especially young quarterbacks still trying to establish themselves, usually stay quiet. That's just the reality of professional football. You don't challenge the machine. You don't call out the system. And you definitely don't demand an investigation into someone as powerful as a head coach unless you are absolutely certain about what you're saying. So when Penix stepped into the spotlight and said what he said, it sent shockwaves through the football world. Because think about what that actually means. This is a quarterback who still has his own career to protect, his own reputation to build, his own relationships inside the league that matter. And yet he still decided to speak. That alone should make every fan stop and ask the same question. Why? Why would Michael Penix Jr. risk that? Why would a player willingly put a target on his back in a league that has a very long memory when it comes to players who challenge authority? Because, let's be real here, players around the league see things all the time. They see locker room politics, they see coaching decisions, they see situations where young players aren't given a fair shot. But almost nobody speaks publicly about it, especially not like this. So when Penix did, it tells you something. It tells you that whatever he saw, whatever he heard, whatever he believes happened to Shedeur Sanders inside that organization, it bothered him enough that staying silent wasn't an option anymore. And that's when this story stopped being just another quarterback storyline. Because at first glance, people will say this is about Shedeur Sanders struggling. They'll say it's about a rookie quarterback trying to find his place in the NFL. But when another quarterback steps in and says the system itself might have been the problem, that's when the conversation changes completely. Now we're not just talking about performance. Now we're talking about power. Now we're talking about opportunity. Now we're talking about whether young quarterbacks are actually being developed or quietly buried when they don't fit the plan. And if you've watched the NFL long enough, you know this question has been floating around the league for years. Because we've seen it before. Talented quarterbacks enter the league with massive expectations, only to disappear into systems that were never built to help them succeed. Different teams, different coaches, same story. So when Michael Penix Jr. stepped forward and demanded accountability, it forced the entire football world to look at this situation differently. Because now the question isn't just whether Shedeur Sanders struggled. The real question is much bigger than that. What actually happened inside that building? And why did it push another quarterback to risk everything just to say something about it? And trust me, once you start pulling on that thread, the story gets a whole lot deeper. Before any of this drama exploded, before the accusations, before the investigation talk, before the entire NFL started debating what really happened behind closed doors, there was one simple reality. Everyone was watching Shedeur Sanders. And I mean everyone. When Shedeur entered the league, he wasn't just another rookie quarterback trying to survive the NFL learning curve. He came in with a spotlight that most young players never experience. The name carried weight. The confidence was undeniable. And the expectations? They were sky high. Because if you watched him in college, you already knew what the hype was about. The arm talent was there. The accuracy was there. The leadership that was obvious the moment he stepped onto the field. Teammates believed in him. Coaches trusted him with the offense. And every time the game got tight, every time the pressure dialed up, Sanders looked like the kind of quarterback who wanted the ball in his hands. That's the kind of presence scouts fall in love with. And fans too. People weren't just projecting Shedeur as a decent quarterback in this league. They were talking about him as a potential franchise leader, the kind of player you build an offense around for the next decade. But here's the part that casual fans sometimes forget. Quarterback talent alone doesn't guarantee success in the NFL. Not even close. This league is full of guys who had the arm, the intelligence, the confidence, and still watched their careers stall out before they ever really got started. Why? Because the early years of a quarterback's career are incredibly fragile. You need reps. You need real practice time with the starting offense, timing with receivers, chemistry with the offensive line. The little details that turn raw talent into a functioning NFL offense. You need coaching trust. A quarterback has to know that when he makes a mistake, and every young quarterback the staff still believes in him enough to let him keep learning through it. And maybe most important of all, you need stability. A system that actually fits your skill set. A locker room that believes in you. A coaching staff that is genuinely invested in your growth. Take those things away, and even elite prospects can start to look ordinary. And this is where the Shedeur Sanders situation starts to get uncomfortable. Because the conversation that's been quietly building around his time in that system isn't really about talent anymore. It's about opportunity. Sources started pointing to something that on the surface might sound small, but inside the NFL, it matters a lot. Rep distribution. Who gets the first team reps in practice? Who gets the real developmental opportunities? Who gets the offense built around them? And according to people close to the situation, Sanders wasn't always getting those chances the way you'd expect for a young quarterback the organization supposedly believed in. And that changes everything. Because in this league, development isn't just about ability. It's about time. It's about trust. It's about opportunity. And when a young quarterback doesn't get those things, the narrative can flip fast. Suddenly, the conversation shifts from future star to maybe he's not ready. But here's the question that fans and now apparently players like Penix Jr. are starting to ask. Was Shedeur Sanders actually struggling because he wasn't ready for the NFL? Or was he stuck in a system that never really gave him the chance to prove he was? The moment a young quarterback struggles in the NFL, the narrative machine starts moving, and it moves fast. One bad stretch of games, a few shaky drives, maybe a couple interceptions on national television. And suddenly the conversation changes overnight. He's overrated. He's not ready. He was overhyped. You've heard it before. Every NFL fan has. The media cycle locks in. The hot takes start flying. And within weeks, a player who once carried massive expectations is suddenly labeled a disappointment. And that's exactly the storm Shedeur Sanders started facing. Because when things didn't immediately click in the system around him, the blame came quickly. Too quickly, if you ask me. The narrative became simple. Too simple. If the offense struggled, blame the quarterback. If the timing looked off, blame the quarterback. If the team wasn't winning games, blame the quarterback. But here's the thing the NFL rarely admits out loud. Quarterbacks don't develop in a vacuum. They develop inside systems, inside locker rooms, inside organizations that either nurture their growth or quietly stunt it. And when things go wrong, those organizations rarely step forward and say, "Yeah, we failed this player." Instead, the criticism rolls downhill, right onto the young quarterback trying to figure out the hardest position in professional sports. We've seen this pattern play out again and again in this league. Think about it. How many times have we watched a talented quarterback enter the NFL with real promise only to be thrown into chaos? Different play callers every season, offensive lines that can't protect, coaching staffs that are fighting for their own jobs. And when the results aren't perfect, the quarterback gets labeled the problem. It happens again and again. Talented quarterback. Wrong system. Talented quarterback. Wrong coaching staff. Talented quarterback. Career stalled before it even begins. And once that narrative starts building, it becomes incredibly hard to stop. Because the NFL isn't just football. It's politics. Veterans often get priority because teams trust experience. Front offices have reputations to protect. Coaches have systems they refuse to change. And sometimes, a young quarterback becomes the easiest piece to blame when things don't work. That's the uncomfortable reality nobody likes talking about. And this is where Michael Penix Jr.'s decision starts to feel a lot more significant. Because if Penix believed Shedeur Sanders was simply struggling, if he thought this was just another rookie going through the normal growing pains of the NFL, then there would be no reason for him to step into this situation. Players around the league don't risk their own careers just to defend someone who simply wasn't ready. But if Penix saw something different, if he believed Sanders wasn't failing because of his talent, but because of how the system around him was being run, then suddenly his decision to speak out makes a whole lot more sense. Because now we're not talking about a quarterback who didn't live up to expectations. We're talking about the possibility that those expectations were never given a fair chance to be met. And if what Penix is suggesting is even partially true, then this story isn't just about football anymore. It's about power. Michael Penix Jr. didn't speak out by accident. And if you understand the journey he's been through to even reach this point in the NFL, then you start to realize why his voice carries so much weight in this moment. Because Penix understands something about the quarterback position that a lot of fans and honestly even some analysts don't fully appreciate. Being a young quarterback in the NFL is like living inside a pressure cooker. Every single week you're being evaluated. Every throw is analyzed. Every mistake gets replayed over and over again on television, social media, sports talk, radio. And while that's happening, you're also fighting battles that most fans never see. Locker room competition, veteran quarterbacks protecting their roles, coaching staffs trying to win now while also developing talent for the future, front offices making decisions based on contracts, politics, and long-term plans. And through all of that, the young quarterback is expected to stay calm, stay confident, and somehow grow under the brightest spotlight in professional sports. Penix knows that reality better than most. This is a player who fought through adversity long before he ever stepped onto an NFL field. Injuries that would have ended some careers. Doubt that followed him everywhere. Questions about durability, about consistency, about whether he could actually lead a team at the highest level. He's heard the criticism, he's lived the pressure. And that experience changes how you see situations around the league. Because once you've been through the quarterback grinder yourself, you start recognizing when another young player might be dealing with something deeper than just normal struggles. You can see the difference between development and dysfunction. And that's why Penix speaking out matters so much, because players don't do this lightly. In professional sports, challenging the system comes with consequences. Teams remember things, front offices remember things, and reputations travel fast across a league that is smaller than most people realize. One comment in the media can follow a player for years. So when Penix decided to attach his name directly to a demand for an NFL investigation, he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew people would question his motives. He knew some executives around the league might not like it. He knew that speaking publicly about another organization's internal situation was stepping into dangerous territory, and he did it anyway. That tells you something. That tells you that whatever Penix believes happened in Shedeur Sanders' situation, he believes it strongly enough to risk his own standing in the league. That's not just courage, that's conviction. Because players inside the NFL see things that the public doesn't always see. They hear conversations. They understand dynamics inside locker rooms and meeting rooms that never make it into headlines. And when someone inside that world decides the situation has crossed a line, it can force the entire league to pay attention. Moments like this have a way of opening doors. Suddenly, other players start speaking. Former teammates start sharing stories. Reporters start digging deeper into situations that previously stayed hidden. And once that process starts, it becomes very difficult to stop. Which brings us to where this story now stands. Michael Penix Jr. didn't just raise a question. He made a demand, a public one. And now the NFL is standing at a crossroads. Because once an accusation like this enters the spotlight, the league can't just pretend it didn't happen. Now, they have to respond. Here's the part a lot of people are getting wrong about this entire situation. They're acting like Shedeur Sanders' story is already written, like the chapter is closed. Like whatever happened early in his NFL journey somehow defines the rest of his career. And if you've watched football long enough, you know that's just not how this league works. Some of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen had rocky beginnings. Rough rookie seasons. Coaching changes. Systems that never fit their skill set. Situations that looked like dead ends at the time. We've seen it before. Think about guys like Jalen Hurts. Early doubts. People questioning if he was really the guy. Coaching turnover. System adjustments. And now, he's one of the most respected leaders in the league. Or even someone like Geno Smith. Written off for years. Bounced around the league. Then suddenly the right system. The right coaching staff. The right opportunity, and the entire narrative flip. That's the reality of quarterback development. Sometimes talent doesn't fail, sometimes the environment fails the talent. And that's why this moment could actually become something much bigger for Shedeur Sanders than people realize right now, because controversy brings attention, and attention changes things. The NFL is watching this situation now. The media is watching, fans are watching, other players around the league are watching. And once that spotlight hits a situation like this, it becomes a lot harder for organizations to quietly move on like nothing happened. That attention can force accountability. It can force conversations inside front offices. It can force teams to reevaluate how they're developing young quarterbacks and how quickly narratives get written about players who might not have been given a fair opportunity. But most importantly, it creates a second chance. Because the real question moving forward isn't what happened in the past. The real question is what happens next. Will Shedeur Sanders land in a system that actually believes in his talent? Will he get the reps, the trust, and the opportunity every young quarterback needs to grow? Will the league and the teams inside it learn something from this entire situation? Or will it just become another forgotten storyline in the endless cycle of NFL drama? Right now, nobody knows the answer, but what we do know is this. Shedeur Sanders' career is far from finished. Not even close. And sometimes the most powerful chapters in a player's story come after the adversity, after the doubt, after everyone starts questioning whether they belong. Because that's when the comeback starts building. And if Sanders finds the right environment, the right coaches, the right system, the right opportunity, then this moment we're talking about right now might not be remembered as the downfall of his career. It might be remembered as the turning point. And if Michael Penix Jr.'s stand leads to real accountability inside the league, then this story might end up being bigger than just one quarterback. It might change how the NFL handles the development of young players moving forward. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe Shedeur Sanders was truly set back by the system around him? Or do you think this is just part of the normal growing pains young quarterbacks face in the NFL? Drop your take in the comments, because this conversation is just getting started.